From your fryer to the table, it's a quick trip for crispy fries. But how about a crosstown delivery? McCain SureCrisp fries are designed to go from fryer to container to carrier to passenger seat across town during rush hour down a shortcut that wasn't all that short to a doorstep before they hit the table. And that first bite, the crispiness speaks for itself. To the last bite, McCain SureCrisp fries. Go the distance. See how far our fries can take your business at surecrisp.com/delivery.
Welcome to Menu Talk. I'm Pat Cobe, Senior Menu Editor at Restaurant Business, and I'm joined by
Bret Thorn, Senior Food and Beverage Editor of Nation's Restaurant News and Restaurant Hospitality.
Well,
How you doing, Pat?
I'm doing well. How are you doing? I heard you had a sauce tasting at Wendy's. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Wendy's has rolled out 7 new sauces for their Nuggs, Nuggz, I think is how they spell it. It's their chicken nuggets, obviously. And they have a whole new range of sauces. As we know, there's been a lot of sauce innovation going on. KFC recently came out with a bunch of sauces for its nuggets. I thought it was interesting that of the 7 sauces, 4 of them were spicy. There was honey barbecue and hot honey barbecue.
What a surprise. Hot honey again.
Yeah, well, that too. And then buffalo and hot buffalo, garlic parmesan and hot garlic parmesan, and then ghost pepper, which was pretty spicy, certainly for a mainstream fast food chain. And I think that's good, even though the poor woman to the right of me was sweating and unable to speak when she had the ghost pepper nuggets. She also admitted to being very, very spice sensitive. But, for many years, chains would test spicy items on their entire audience, all of their customers. And, they had to score a lot of, really high, 4 or 5 out of 5 with pretty much everybody. And that means nothing was spicy because obviously people who don't like spicy food aren't going to like the spicy food, which means nothing was ever spicy, as I said. So now they only test it with people who actually like spicy food. And so the food can get spicy.
Smart.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that it took them many years to figure that out is like that very nice woman to the right of me would never have ordered spicy nuggets. She doesn't like it.
Well, it's good to have options.
Right.
I think that's what chains are doing now. They have so many different sauces at all different heat levels, and you choose the one you want.
Right. And it's such an easy way to add new menu items and to innovate. I mean, the corporate chef of Wendy's, John Lee, might object to me saying that it's easy because it took them years to, get the viscosity right and have all the supply stuff in place and to test it and to make sure that it coats the nuggets the way people want their nuggets coated. And I also got to try the Dreamsicle Frosty, which is one of the many, many, many creamsicle flavors that are out there now. And it was pretty good. I didn't eat all of my Frosty because, I don't need to eat a whole Frosty, but I did follow the Wendy's custom of dipping some of my fries in the Frosty.
Oh, cool. Well, it's surprising that they're calling them Saucy Nuggs because KFC calls theirs Saucy Nuggets. So it sounds like people will get a little mixed up as to which brand is offering which.
Yeah, I mean, as long as everybody's doing it, maybe they'll be okay. I don't know. Even though I am an American and therefore a consumer, sometimes consumer behavior mystifies me. Speaking of sauces, I just remembered that Sonic Drive-In also, they delivered some of their new groovy fries to my home here in the deep south of Brooklyn, along with their new groovy sauce, which is sort of like fry sauce, but it also was pretty spicy. It had both black pepper and, hot pepper elements in it. And I'm going to save it and cook some of my own potatoes and pour my groovy sauce on it.
Yeah, that sounds good. I guess, from what I've heard, Gen Z, which I am not a member of, but neither are you.
Nope.
Gen Z supposedly likes things spicier, so I guess that's who they're trying to get in. And appeal to?
Well, years ago, before a lot of studies had been done of Gen Z, and not as many as now of millennials, back then, Gen X actually had the spiciest palate, but I think it's
Hmm.
been surpassed by the younger generations. And by the way, they're not that young anymore. Have I already mentioned on this podcast that next year the oldest Gen Zs turn 30?
Right.
Nuts. And I'm Gen X, and I do like spicy food,
Mm-hmm.
but I also have lived in countries where the food is just spicy. So,
Well, I've definitely grown accustomed to eating more spice. I mean, my palate is changing so that I can tolerate more. So I don't like things super hot, but I like them hotter than I used to, for sure.
when eating something hotter than you like it is just not helpful. Like, it
Hmm.
hurts.
Right. Well, I also wanted to talk a little bit about sticker shock because, as opposed to fast food, which is also, going up in price, as my editor, Jonathan, keeps writing about how fast food prices are just like, driving away customers and people are not eating out as much. But fine dining prices to me are like through the roof. I mean, not even fine dining, but like a sit down restaurant that isn't, I wouldn't categorize as fine dining, that doesn't even have tablecloths or, great service. You can't find an entree for less than $40 now.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're in New York City where
Yeah.
it's more expensive than in most other cities, although other cities are catching up.
Oh, definitely.
And I think most major cities now have crazy prices.
Mhm.
And yeah, even as, people with incomes and stuff, it's really striking how expensive full
Mhm.
service restaurants have become. And yet, yeah, I mean, the reason that Jonathan and a number of my colleagues at Nation's Restaurant News are writing about prices is because there have been studies showing that now most Americans consider even fast food to be a luxury.
Right. But people are still, it's still hard to score a reservation at some of the, top chef driven restaurants. And people are waiting, like weeks and weeks to just eat there. So there are people who have the money, I guess. But I mean, and I'm not going to stop eating at restaurants because the prices are high, but I might just go less frequently.
Well, yeah, but I think everyone's doing that, and this is why
Hmm.
traffic is down almost everywhere.
Right. But I've seen lately a number of chefs are giving customers a lot more options, like doing a lot more with their happy hours and their bar food, so you can enjoy a meal out without spending $100 with drinks.
Right. Yeah, I just went out with a friend of mine who's visited me in my new neighborhood because he was actually going out on a bird watching and whale watching boat.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, what you can do in my neighborhood, you can get on a boat, and he actually went out overnight. So right now he's near, he hopes, the continental shelf, and there have been some right whale spottings and stuff there.
Wow, I didn't know you could do that from Brooklyn. That's pretty
Can
amazing.
come on down. There are whale watching boats, and we went to a restaurant on the water called Roca, Rocca, and there are a few restaurants in my neighborhood in Sheepshead Bay that people talk about a lot. For some reason, they don't talk about Roca, which is sort of a Turkish influenced restaurant right on the water. You can buy hookahs there if you want to smoke hookah. That's an option, but everything was pretty reasonably priced. Nonetheless, we had a beer each, and we split some, meze spread, hummus, tzatziki, baba ganoush kind of appetizers, and we also split a kebab dish and some Turkish dumplings, manti, and the bill was $100 with tip.
Yeah.
We were just, sitting there having a beer, having a meal, $100.
Right. Yeah, it's
Nuts.
crazy. Well, speaking of, prices, I did speak with Barry McGowan, who's the CEO of Fogo de Chao,
Mhm.
and he's still trying to offer good value to customers. I mean, you can go in one of his locations and have a steak dinner or I mean, not steak, but the Brazilian steak experience, where you get a lot of different cuts of steak and lamb and other meats, and it's $52, including the market table, which is like a meal in itself.
Yeah, that's an all-you-can-eat giant beyond salad bar. Like you
Right.
have soups and all sorts of composed salads and different things there. And yeah, it's interesting that Fogo can manage to do so. Really, I mean, it's a luxury occasion, but it's
Mhm.
quite reasonably priced. And as I understand it, their traffic's up.
Right. Well, so Barry did talk a little bit about how he keeps prices lower by managing his input costs and smart sourcing. So I just wanted to play a little clip from our podcast where he talks about that.
I want to hear it.
We work really hard on the input costs. So we're commodity buyers of beef. So we tend to buy overhang wherever there's slack in the market. We can bring up. We have our core cuts. We don't deviate from. But when seasonal meats come in or overhang, for instance, is in the market, if somebody canceled contract, we can pick up stuff that we can introduce to our guest and just serve them. So we're probably the only concept that can give the guest more choice, more optionality, and actually mitigate or lower cost and give that value to the guest.
No, they also butcher in-house, so that saves them on some costs because they buy the whole piece, and they actually do different cuts than a lot of other steakhouses. They're more this Brazilian South American cuts that we're not used to here, but people seem to really like.
Yeah, their signature one, or one of the signature ones, is the picanha, which I really love. It's the sirloin cap, and it has all that crunchy, delicious, crackly, dried fat on top, and then
Yeah.
wonderful, succulent beef underneath. I always get that when I'm at Fogo. And
Yeah.
also their servers are also their chefs, which is helpful.
Yeah, no, I mean, they really have a good management system there, both with the supply chain and the service and the types of menu items that they promote. So it's great.
When you don't have to go for the full churrasco experience, right? You can go to Bar Fogo and just sit at the bar and
Right.
drink cocktails and get an entree.
We did talk about that later, so I will play
Sorry.
that clip later. But we also talked about the pork belly, which we both know just won a Menu Masters Award for Best
Good.
Line Extension.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hear what Barry has to say about the pork belly.
So it's we introduced it, about 2 seasons ago, 2 rollouts ago, and it just is a complement to what we already serve. But pork belly sounds like pork belly, so we just slow roast it, bring it down to reduction phase, and then we put it over our open flame and continuously cook it. So when we take it off the flame, we butcher it up and hand it tableside to the guests to indulge and try. It's a decadent cut, as you know, but to have that as a trial piece or a complement to what you do, it's just. And what I like too is you don't have to buy a whole portion. It's available. You could try it, enjoy it, and just try it as much as you like. So the extension just adds further value to the experience. But I am so proud of Chef Antonio and Gracie for accepting the award on behalf of our team.
Yeah, I didn't get to sample it, but you did, Brett. So it sounds like a really good piece of meat.
Yeah, they have. I mean, like Fogo anyway. It's a fun experience, and you get to try a bunch of different things. I sometimes I just want an appetizer, an entree, and maybe a dessert with a couple glasses of wine. But sometimes it's fun to mix it up.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Barry also talked about the lamb chops because not a lot of places are doing lamb anymore, but he sources from New Zealand and he gets a steady supply and it's not as expensive as American lamb. So he's able to offer lamb on the menu. So he talks about that a little bit.
We've introduced lamb coulant. The way we butcher it, trim it, and then we curb it and slow cook it like picanha. So we call it lamb picanha. So it has the herbaliscent bark, slow roasted. So when we cut it real thin, it is phenomenal. Dark meat, light meat with fat cap, with the herbs on it, with some fresh manchuri. It is now mixing at 50%. Now that's just a lot less cost to do, so it offsets the cost of the premium. So we don't have to take it away, But we know is when people love lamb, they want to experience different type of lamb. And now that's mixing at 50%. Like we said, our guests love it. So we can't force people to eat it, but they're always willing to try. And so it's a new discovery. It's a great product. And we continue to look at lamb in different ways. We've used leg of lamb. We have that's very traditional in Brazil and South America. In the U.S., we moved to lamb picanha versus that. So we can mix between different cuts of lamb to help our guests experience lamb in a unique and different way.
Yeah, not everybody loves lamb, but this is a great way to like try it out.
Yeah, I love lamb. And I think it's interesting that he uses mint churi, which I assume is a mint heavy chimichurri. And
Right,
so that's fun. It's a nice little way of continuing the mint jelly tradition, but in a South American kind of way.
right. It's probably a lot tastier than mint jelly. I remember my mother serving mint jelly out of the jar with leg of lamb. Wasn't my favorite as a kid.
Yeah. It's funny. I grew up in Colorado, but we didn't eat lamb. Lamb was
Oh,
too
really?
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fancy. I tend to prefer the French approach of garlic sauce with lamb.
Hmm.
And when I was in culinary school, we learned how to make a garlic cream sauce that we served with leg of lamb that
Mm.
I love. And you just basically you fry the garlic in it's still in their skin, and then you kind of push it through a fine mesh and simmer it with cream, and it's freaking delicious.
Mm. Sounds great.
You know
Yeah,
what? That should be available for nuggets.
oh,
Nice
yeah.
garlic cream sauce.
Yeah.
Okay, corporate chefs out
There you
there, if you're listening, please garlic cream sauce for my chicken nuggets. Thank you.
go.
I mean, the garlic parmesan that Wendy's has that I just tried. That was my favorite actually, and I usually go for spice, but
Yeah.
I don't know, there was something about it that tasted like childhood to me. And
Was it pretty garlicky or
yeah,
was it tame? Yeah.
quite garlicky.
I think I would like that too.
Yeah, I'm a
But
fan.
we also talked about the menu revamp at Bar Fogo, which we mentioned a little bit about how some guests like to just sit at the bar and have their really good bar food and drinks. So we'll play a little bit of that clip.
Fantastic.
Because not many bars you can walk in and have lamb chops at the bar. So
Right.
we do those same lamb chops, premier lamb chops from New Zealand. You'll get 6 bones for $15 on a board with mint churi. It's phenomenal. You can have the bone, which is a braised beef rib. We have empanadas. We have our own fresh ground burger because we're butchering all day. We have our own fresh ground half-pound burger we sell for $9 or $10 at the bar with polenta fries.
Wow.
So we just got a great variety at the bar. It's all protein centric or a mix of protein and something else that complements. We have duck pate with apple and fig. It's beautiful, beautiful. It's kind of a high end item, but very approachable. We've looked at caviar and egg, salad. We're testing that now, so going upstream with caviar, but just making it approachable for people to try. And then one of my funnest thing that's really selling really well is our shrimp and lobster taco
Mm.
in a California cabbage shell, which is just really decadent. It's a great product, and it's selling really well.
You could tell that I was getting hungry listening to it.
Yeah,
Everything
that's
sounded so good.
absolutely, and so reasonably priced. And you have a Fogo in Manhattan, and I have
Mhm.
one in Brooklyn now that
Right?
recently opened in downtown Brooklyn, and I want to go have that burger.
Yeah, I know that is a real bargain. I mean, you
Right.
can't even get one at, Shake Shack for that
Right.
price,
Yeah.
fries. So,
And it reminds me, I did have $7 lamb chops at a little Japanese place in my old neighborhood called Konoha. It's like a yakitori place, and so
mhm.
it's here, have a little snack. But it was a $7 lamb chop, and I went back a week or two later, and it was $8. So maybe it's $10 now. I don't
Yeah.
know, but still, that's a good deal for lamb chops these days.
Yeah, I think more fine dining restaurants or, sit down restaurants are trying to do snacky items at the bar just to get people in, at off hours. And of course, they'll buy a drink. So that pushes up the check.
Right. Yeah. As long as they buy a drink, you could give them food and then you'd still be
Right.
profitable. So it's a smart approach, even as people are drinking less. But have them
Mhm.
buy a spirit-free cocktail. Those are profitable too.
Yeah, no, I was telling Barry that even my friends who claim they're foodies really like Fogo because it has something for everyone and good quality and, good culinary techniques used to make the menu. So it's a win.
Yeah, and well, it's funny that you say even people who consider themselves foodies. I remember years ago, before the pandemic, there was a party that Popeyes threw, and I think it was also promoting their new sauces, and they just had sort of like they rented out some restaurant in Lower Manhattan and had sort of a buffet line of their chicken tenders and stuff, and some of the people from the more foodie publications came and were shocked that Popeyes makes good fried chicken, which I mean, that's their job. So they make good fried chicken.
Well, I think that's it from Fogo. And that concludes our podcast for today. We will meet again next week and talk more about our foodie experiences.
Yes, we will. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
From your fryer to the table, it's a quick trip for crispy fries. But how about a crosstown delivery? McCain SureCrisp fries are designed to go from fryer to container to carrier to passenger seat across town during rush hour down a shortcut that wasn't all that short to a doorstep before they hit the table. And that first bite, the crispiness speaks for itself. To the last bite, McCain SureCrisp fries. Go the distance. See how far our fries can take your business at surecrisp.com/delivery.